Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another market breakdown. It is Tuesday, November 25th. So got about 5 days left in the month. I actually don't know how long November is. So we just got, this is the last week of November. Then we have the weekend, Thanksgiving, the weekend, and then we will be in the final stretch of the year, which will be the long month of December. So looking forward to taking a break, spending time with family. Hope you guys are able to do the same. But yeah, all right. So let's start by going over the trades that we took this week. So far, it's just been two GBP USD, which we got taken out of this morning, and then I entered AUD USD a couple hours after that. And we're currently right around break even. So we'll see how this one plays out. Let's go over the two. I actually don't think that I journaled these trades. Let me go ahead and check to see if I did. GBP USD. Okay. I don't necessarily think I had the confluences marked down on this one, but let's go over the confluences that we had for this entry initially. And then we can journal the trade as well. So in general, we had the weekly time frame, which was bearish. We had the daily time frame, which was bearish, and the 4-hour time frame, which was also bearish. So we had a lower low reaction from the daily area of interest. We pushed down, and then we pulled back into this EMA, right? And at the time that we took this entry, it was right around or right after, I think, yesterday's call. And price was trading down here, basically rejected the EMA very aggressively and was trading towards the downside. So we had three time frames that were bearish. Did we have an error or an around psychological level? Yes, we did. We rejected 131,000. So we had around psychological level. We had a lower time frame area of interest, which isn't necessarily a daily area of interest, which is probably why we had trouble with this trade. But there is somewhat of a daily area of interest. You can count this as an elbow, this is an elbow, and potentially the third one being created as we speak. But regardless, the weekly time frame had very few confluences overall. We didn't really have a pattern. We were retesting the previous structure, not exactly like fully retesting it, but we were retesting it with the wick, just retesting the previous wicks with this wick. We weren't retesting the EMA, and we did have a candlestick rejection last week. We rejected with the bearish engulfing. So I was expecting somewhat of a continuation on the daily time frame. We had a double top. We were retesting these wicks once again, retesting these previous structures. We weren't retesting the EMA, and we didn't have a candlestick rejection just yet. 4-hour time frame was retesting the EMA, had a candlestick rejection somewhat. We never really closed with the candle, so we can't really count that as a candlestick rejection. But we were retesting previous structures. We were underneath the 4-hour EMA. And at the time that I took the trade, we were also underneath the 30-minute EMA. We had a shift the structure to the downside on the 30-minute time frame, and we even had a 30-minute and 15-minute bearish engulfing candle. So we had quite a few confluences for entries, and just in general as well. I think that the issue was the fact that we never waited for that 4-hour candlestick closure. And if we did, we would have seen that price kind of failed to reject all the way and failed to close bearish. So this was the trade that we took. Let's go ahead and journal it. So we entered on the 24th. Entry price was 85, stop loss, and our take profit was basically just a 1 to 2. Yeah, so we'll go that way. Saved our trade, and then let's go over the one that we have today, which is AUD USD. So AUD USD on the weekly time frame is bearish. We have a lower low. So we have bearish structure on the weekly time frame, bearish structure on the daily time frame, and the 4-hour time frame is also bearish. So we have 3 time frames that are bearish. Do we have a round psychological level? Kind of. We kind of do at 64500. It's a little bit lower than where we entered, but there is a round psychological level in this area. We have an area of interest on the daily time frame, weekly time frame. Has a pattern. We have a head and shoulders pattern. We are retesting the previous structures. We're retesting EMA. I wouldn't necessarily say we're retesting the EMA. I think this would count more of a EMA retest than what we have at the moment. But we do have like a candlestick rejection to the downside with a bearish engulfing. After that, we have the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, we also have a head and shoulders. So we're retesting previous structure. And we don't necessarily have a candlestick rejection just yet. This could count as a doji, and I feel like you could potentially use that. But I would say if this current candle closes with a bearish engulfing or a doji, at that point, we will have more confirmation for that. Next is the 4-hour time frame. 4-hour time frame has created a double top right here. So we have a double top. We are retesting previous structure, but we aren't retesting the EMA just yet. And we do have a few candlestick rejections from this area of interest. We're underneath the 4-hour EMA. When I entered, we were also underneath the 30-minute EMA. Price was bullish on the 30-minute time frame. We shifted bearish. We had a lower low. So I guess you could kind of count that. Maybe, let's see, 1-hour time frame. 1 hour was bullish. Yeah, we shifted bearish, created a lower low. So we have a shift structure, and then we also have our engulfing candlestick. I think we entered after. Maybe we don't have an engulfing candlestick, do we? We entered somewhere within this area. So I guess that's a 15-minute engulfing candlestick. So they're both about the same, 115%, I think, for the last 2 trades that we took. Copy the entry price. I think we're going to be targeting either weekly structure. So yeah, it's weekly. It is a weekly structure point right here. And it is also, I believe, a daily structure point, or I guess there's multiple daily structure points, but this is just a 1 to 2.5. So weekly structure point for a 1 to 2.5 risk to reward. And then we can go ahead and mark this one as a loss. All right, so yeah, the month is coming to a close. So there is 30 days. So, and the month ends on a Sunday. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into the full breakdown of things. Yay, Black Friday. How do I get rid of this? There we go. All right, so we've gone over the trades that we took. Now let's go over some of these other pairs, starting with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is having a daily pullback, 4-hour time frame. It's still underneath the EMA, but something tells me that we might break above, retest, and actually start to buy, considering the fact that we already have a few bullish daily candles. Unless we get like a bearish engulfing daily candle, something tells me that price will probably just continue to climb upwards for a little while, potentially until we retest the daily or the weekly area of interest or EMAs. So for right now, just waiting for a bit of a pullback. I don't think that this is exactly tradable in the current situation, but that is up to you guys. SPX is currently sitting at the previous structure at this area of interest underneath the 4-hour EMA. We did have a reaction to the upside. So we broke underneath the daily EMA, and then we broke back above it. So at this point, I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. I would like to see more selling happening. As you can see, the 4-hour EMA does hold price pretty well. We may see price break above shortly and then break back underneath. If that's the case, you could probably sell back into this daily structure point. And if not, then we'll probably see price break above, retest, and take off to the upside. It's basically going to be the same situation across NASDAQ and US 30, where we are technically above this EMA here, barely above the 4-hour EMA. In fact, we might be doing something similar to this, something similar to this, something similar to this, where we have broken above just slightly, only to break back below and sell. That is a potential thing that might happen. Same thing here on US 30. We're kind of in the middle of no man's land. Underneath the daily, but above or underneath the daily and underneath the 4-hour for this one, but it looks like we're creating a inverted head and shoulders that could lead price to push higher. So in general, if you want to kind of play it safe, you wait for price to break above this area of interest right here, pull back, and then buy. That would be the best option. If not, then you're just looking for rejections to sell. For all three of those, basically. Gold. Gold is a little bit frustrating for me. I was I was supposed to take buys, and I did actually take some buys. The very, very tight stop loss, right around, I mean, it was literally like right around this area right here. And my target was going to be this wick. Okay, so that was going to be my trade from right there to there. Would have had an insane return, but once again, my stop loss was too tight, and I got wicked out of the trade. Went to sleep, so I got wicked out of this trade. I went to sleep, and woke up to price being at my take profit, basically. So that sucks, you know. Anyways, it is what it is. At this point, I think price should sell a little bit into this area of interest down here. Like we did basically before, we bought very aggressively, pulled back a few times into this area right here, and then we bought. So it's kind of the same thing, where we buy, pull back into this area, maybe retest the EMA, and then we continue to buy. That's what I'm expecting for gold to do. Dollar index still retesting this weekly EMA, daily time frame is still bullish. 4-hour time frame is still bullish as well. At this point, we'll probably see price continuing to go higher, but we're still waiting on that price to reject the area of interest and the EMA, both of those things. All right. Moving on. What do we have here? So GBP USD. For the USD pairs, I think most of them are having some kind of a reaction. NZD USD is having a bearish reaction. USD CAD bullish. I do expect these two to have their continuations um in their directions for sells basically. At this point, we're kind of creating a head and shoulder on AUD USD. I'd like to see price just pull back and continue to sell. Um, yeah, so just waiting on that to happen at this point. If you're not in the trade yet, just be patient, I'd say. Maybe wait for the daily candle to close for both. If we get a proper rejection, um, then we might be able to enter another position, similar to the way we did over here, where we were able to capitalize off of this move two separate times. If you are going to enter, I would suggest, you know, entering maybe after price creates its head and shoulders and breaks below this 30-minute EMA. That would probably be the best option for GBP USD. At this point, yeah, we're just waiting for that continuation to happen. Price basically pulled back into our entries from last week. So thankfully, we decided to close and not hold all the way into our full take profit, which was supposed to be like a 5 to 6% trade. So we ended up avoiding very, very heavy pullbacks. In fact, depending on the prop firm that you're trading with, you probably would have blown your account because in on Funding Pips, the prop firm that I have one of my accounts with right now, it has a static, is it a static drawdown? Is that what it's called? Basically, as price moves up, say you're in profit $1,000, your daily drawdown moves up $1,000 too. So if I'm positive 5,000 today and then I go negative or I go down to zero, that still counts as $5,000 worth of drawdown. And this would have been the case for this trade here. Yeah, just waiting for basically price to break back underneath the 4-hour EMA, pull back and sell. Here, there's not much to wait for, I would say. Just kind of pull back into the EMA and then have a rejection off of the lower time frame EMA. Since we're already underneath the 4-hour, there's not much for us to wait for on the 4-hour. Just like the lower time frames to make sure all is good. Another thing to consider is the fact that we have USD news in an hour. So we have about an hour until we have the PPI and the retail sales. So that should give us a pump of liquidity and volatility in this market. So hopefully we don't get wicked out by that pump. All right. So next we have Euro GBP. Euro GBP was one that I was very interested in for this week and one that I missed out on. In fact, yesterday during the call, we were basically talking about this one. We had the 4-hour rejection candle. It was exactly at this time yesterday. And price was actually having a push to the upside while we were breaking it down. And I don't even remember what I said about this one. I was just saying price is basically ready to enter. We're just waiting for price to show us that it's ready to enter. And that was shown to us as soon as we had this push to the downside, broke underneath the EMA. In fact, I placed this, pretty sure I placed this order right at the same time as price was moving. So this would have been the trade that you could have taken, and we would have been halfway to the 1 to 3. So at this current moment, I think price is kind of gone. Unless you get some kind of a pullback potentially into the 4-hour EMA, which is kind of unlikely in my eyes. Daily time frame is bearish. 4-hour time frame is bearish. In reality, this is a counter trend trade because the weekly and the monthly are still bullish, but the daily and the 4 hour are bearish. So it would make sense to take sells. Um, at this point, I'm just going to wait for price to get to this area to buy. But if you're looking to sell, then you just do that from, I don't know, from here, exactly where we are, I suppose. I just don't know where you, like, once again, I don't know where you would put your stop loss. If your stop loss is this tight, maybe you put your stop loss above these wicks right here. That's still a 1 to 2.5, but that is a very, very aggressive entry. And if price decides to retest the 2 hour EMA or the 4 hour EMA, you're getting taken out of this trade and price will still move in your direction. So that is the only issue with that. CHFJPY is one that I sent out yesterday, I believe, as a trade idea. Yeah, it was yesterday at 8:50 p.m., right before. So it was right after this 4 hour candle closed bearish, or right before it closed bearish, actually. And then we pulled back and sold very, very nicely. Daily time frame was bearish, is bearish. 4 hour time frame is bearish. We have created the next lower low on the 4 hour time frame. At this point, all price is going to do is either sell immediately into the take profit or create a new lower high and then the next lower low. So those are your options. As of right now, I'm not interested. I think price is already gone from our previous structure. This was an amazing trade. Once again, I missed out on it. Euro GBP, I think same thing for me on this one. I think it's gone. I don't think I'm going to be interested in it any longer. Yeah, it doesn't make sense for me to take a trade so far away from the initial entry. So we'll delete this. We'll delete this. And at this point, we're just waiting for the pullback to sell and then the buy to happen. All right, so USD pairs. Euro USD weekly time frame is bearish or is bullish. Daily time frame is bearish. 4 hour time frame is currently pulling back. It is currently bullish as well. So 4 hour time frame is bullish. Not exactly the best thing to see. This pair is a little bit. It's done this before. In fact, I think that this might be exactly what's about to happen. Where price sells off of the EMA, then has a pullback back into the EMA before it sells very, very nicely. So here, we had this move to the downside. I think now we're kind of going to have this move. As you can see, the first blue candle is what initiated this pullback. The first blue candle is what initiated this pullback. We already have our first blue candle. So we might actually get that daily pullback on Euro USD. So at this point, I think that it's best to kind of sit on our hands and wait for the sellers to take back over. We are underneath the 4 hour EMA right now, but it wouldn't take much for us to break back above and start to buy. So yeah. Hopefully that's not what happens across all the USD pairs. All right. Next is NZD USD. Daily time frame is bearish, weekly time frame is bearish, and 4 hour time frame is also bearish. We're currently having a 4 hour pullback, and price rejected some of these lower time frame EMAs, such as the 2 hour and the 4 hour. 4 hour is a little bit further away, but price still did reject it. At the current moment, Price is trading very similarly to this area right here. So we have a buy, we reject the EMA, pull back, sell, and then we break above and then we buy. So I'm not really loving that could happen on NZD USD. At the current moment, there's not much more for us to do other than wait to potentially avoid any more losses. Euro USD, NZD USD. Okay. Yeah, so at this point, we're just going to continue to kind of sit on our hands and wait. Price is retesting or has retested previous structure, which is nice to see on NZD USD. Yeah, at this point, we're just kind of trying to avoid getting caught in a what would you call it? A fake out. So we don't want to be caught in a fake out to the downside. And to avoid doing that, we should probably wait for price to break and retest underneath this lower time frame area of interest. Seems like we've created somewhat of a head and shoulders right here, which is a reversal pattern. We just saw a pump of buyers coming in to push this market up, but I'm not sure why they're failing to do so. Obviously, it's not what I want to see. I want to see more sellers. Right now, we're creating the head and shoulders. Yeah, anyways, we'll move on and we'll see what happens as we do our analysis. But I do expect price to actually push higher, which is not good for our AUD USD trade. We're still underneath the 30-minute and the 15-minute EMA. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. If we fail to break above this EMA here, if it holds price and we break back below this area right here, chances of us selling are very, very high. At this point, if we break back below, we close and we sell, I think that there's a good chance that we will continue to sell and that our position will be safe. However, if for some reason we break back above this EMA and we break back above this wick right here, we close above it, chances of us hitting stop loss are like 95%. And that's kind of the way things are at the moment. All right, moving on. Yeah, for these ones, just waiting for lower time frame confirmation of more sells. Other than that, there's nothing to do on these pairs. They are still good to take trades on. Like I would still expect price to continue to sell. This one, I was hoping to see more of a daily pullback. It was a very, very short-term pullback that we had on NZD USD. That's one thing that kind of concerns me, but at the same time, we're underneath the EMA, so everything should be okay. USD CAD, still waiting on a daily pullback, nothing to trade here. AUD CHF, we were supposed to break and retest underneath the EMA. That hasn't happened. Still waiting on that to happen. So that one is still valid as well. In fact, we have a daily rejection candle. So I think tomorrow we might be able to take entries on this. The trade looks very similar to this right here, where we sold, we pulled back, and then we continue to sell. Same exact thing, a little bit different, obviously, but the idea is that we sold into this area right here, we pulled back into our area of interest, and then we will continue to sell out of that area of interest. So here we're waiting for a break and retest under 4-hour EMA. And now this one is a daily pullback to buy. Okay. Moving on. EuroCAD. EuroCAD weekly time frame was bearish. Daily time frame is bearish. 4 hour time frame broke or hasn't broken and retested underneath. 4 hour time frame is bearish as well, but looks like it's about to shift bullish on at this point here on the 4 hour time frame. That's so interesting. So yeah, we are actually getting some good sellers out of this area. I'm gonna set an alarm here just so that I can get notified if price pushes higher. I don't want to get caught in a bad position. Wait a minute. Is there a news event? Like what was that? What just happened? Oh, it might be pre-New York. Yeah, it's probably pre-New York liquidity. Okay, well, nothing we can do about it. That was just really confusing and very aggressive as well. I hadn't seen that in quite a while. Or Trump tweeted something. It's one of those. I think the safest time to trade is when Trump is asleep. Um, okay, so trying to get focused again. Daily time frame is bearish. Um, did we already go over this one? No, we're just waiting for a 4 hour break and retest. At this point, we still have two time frames that are bearish. So yeah, break and retest underneath the 4 hour EMA. Even if the 4 hour goes bullish, if we manage to break and retest underneath the EMA, then it'll go bearish once again. Next is GBP AUD. GBP AUD on the daily time frame is bullish. Weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is bullish. 4 hour time frame is still bearish. However, I do think that at this point we have a strong enough area of interest where if we took buys from here and we set our stop loss underneath these wicks right here, that would give us a solid foundation to take a trade to the upside. I don't know where your take profit would be. My first take profit would probably be this daily structure for a 1 to 4. And then obviously, as price continues to move, we could also move our take profit to the next structure, and then so on and so forth. But this would be the best one right here, weekly and daily structure for a 1 to 3.5 or a 1 to 4. GBP AUD will probably go closer to the top of my list. These ones, NZD, USD, all require lower time frame confirmation, like a lower time frame break and retest. We've already broken, now we're retesting. Shoulder, head, shoulder. I guess to be safe, a break and retest underneath this. So a break and retest of the lower time frame head and shoulders, that would be. And then let's see. For this one, for the 4-hour time frame to go bearish and then pull back and then sell. And here's that structure again. You have your inverted head and shoulders, and then price slowly starts to create that daily pullback. And then eventually you get your shift underneath the EMA, and then price sells. So this is very similar to what might happen here. All right. We'll go through all of those later. Let's just start to speed up our process here. So we've gone over those two. Euro AUD daily time frame is bullish. Here we're still very, I think we're just going to continue pushing higher, to be honest, but daily time frame, higher high, pull back, next higher high. Oops. Yeah, so we have a pullback, and I think we might create a higher high on the daily time frame, which would give us a new structure point. On this one, I'm not too interested. I think it's very similar to GBP AUD though, and GBP AUD is much cleaner in terms of market structure. So we'll stick to that one. GBP CAD took an unfortunate loss here, I think 2 weeks ago. Price ended up pulling back deeper into the weekly EMA and then still rejecting the weekly EMA. At the moment, we are creating a new higher high on the 4-hour time frame. At this point, I don't think we're pulling back into the daily area of interest anymore. I think we're actually just going to pull back into the previous structures and into the EMA here on the 4-hour time frame. So this could be a potential opportunity here. To be safe, once again, I would wait for price to break above the daily EMA. But yeah, I'm not too interested in this one at the moment. Just going to stay away for now. Weekly time frame, bearish. Daily time frame, NZD CAD has had a pullback similar to NZD USD, retesting the 4-hour EMA and rejecting it. We have had a break, retest, and engulfing off of the 4-hour EMA, similar to the way we have had it on NZD USD. So NZD CAD, NZD USD moving very similarly. Now, this pair is notorious for breaking above the 4-hour EMA. It looks like it's going to reject it, and then it sells or breaks above, retest buys, and then it sells. Same thing here. Looks like we're going to reject it. We break above, retest buy, break below, retest sell, break above, retest buy, break below, retest sell. So for this one, I would be cautious as well. Potentially waiting for a break and retest underneath this head and shoulders. Break underneath, retest, and then sell. That would be underneath the 1-hour EMA with a proper break and retest. When I say proper, I mean an actual sell, an actual retest, and then a continuation to the downside. All right. AUD CAD going to be the same as NZD CAD. So we're just waiting for price to break below, retest, sell, but I'm not too interested in this one at the moment. Does look pretty good on the 4-hour time frame, daily time frame. Retested the daily EMA, 4-hour EMA. Weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bearish, 4-hour time frame is bullish. So the 4-hour time frame is currently bullish. If the 4-hour time frame goes bearish, that would be a different question. In fact, tomorrow we might be able to tell a little bit better what's going to happen and if we'll be able to capitalize off of AUD CAD. I think there's a good opportunity if price goes bearish on the 4-hour time frame. GBP NZD basically at a higher high, not interested. Same thing here, basically at a higher high, not interested. Same thing here. We never retested that previous structure, not interested. GJ. So these are going to be similar to CHF JPY, where we're currently having a pullback. Now, this pullback is going to be temporary. I think that we're only pulling back into previous structures in order to buy. Above the EMA, above the EMA. We are above most of these EMAs here, except for this one. So it looks like we're shifting below some of the 4-hour EMAs. So that means that the pullback is going to be a little bit deeper on those pairs, because then once we shift below, then we'll retest to sell, and then we have to wait for price to turn around and then retest to buy. So yeah, we're basically playing the waiting game on the JPY pairs until the sellers have exhausted themselves. At the current moments, I don't think it makes sense to sell, since most of these timeframes are bullish. They have 2 timeframes in sync that are bullish. AUD JPY might change that. We might go bearish on the daily time frame, then we'll be bearish on the daily and the 4-hour time frames, for which, after which we'll be able to take sells underneath this inverted head and shoulders, retest the 4-hour EMA like I mentioned, and then sell. So this one might be ready sometime after today's daily candle closure, so tomorrow most likely. But as of right now, I'm not interested in the JPY pairs. CHF pairs are pushing higher. Here we have created a higher high on the daily time frame. So the daily's gone bullish. The weekly is about to shift bullish as well. 4-hour time frame has created a higher high as well. Here, the daily time frame is still bearish. Weekly time frame is still bearish. Looks like we're going to shift here. We have already shifted on this one. So out of all of the CHF pairs, like we're getting very, very mixed market structures. Some of them are bullish, others are bearish. Until we get like indication across the board that CHF is going to sell or CHF is going to buy, I'm just going to stay away from them. Like if all of these can go bullish on the daily time frame, then I'll be like, okay, maybe we are buying. But right now, it looks like NZD CHF is going to sell, right? NZD CHF retesting previous structure looks like it's going to sell. But most of these are having a daily pullback, as you can see. So if one of them is going to sell, then all of them are going to sell. But if most of them are going to, then, all of them are going to. Like, for example, Euro CHF might have a daily pullback into the EMA, retesting previous structure to buy. We have daily time frame that's bullish, 4-hour time frame that's bullish. So a 4-hour pullback to buy could be potential. Weekly is bearish, daily is bearish, 4-hour is bullish. So this is what we're trying to avoid, is the confusion. But yeah, basically, if we get strong selling across all CHF pairs, for example, here we find ourselves down here, and then on GBP CHF, same thing. We find ourselves doing this. Then we'll actually be ready to hop into sells on NZD CHF, on CAD CHF. I think CAD CHF is one of the cleaner looking pairs because we're retesting previous structure, or we're retesting the daily EMA, we're retesting the area of interest, and we're getting a lot of rejections. So that's really nice to see. We're creating 4-hour structure that could be bearish, triple top, double top, break, retest the neckline, retest the EMA. Kind of similar to the way price did right here, except for price did us extremely dirty on this move right here. Literally, I think we held over the weekend, and then on Sunday, price pushed up, took us out. Monday morning, we sold. So that's why we have to be patient on these ones. So as of right now, I don't think much changes on our list. If you guys have any other questions or pairs that you want to discuss, maybe ones that you're interested in or are confused about, let me know. We can go over those once again in case I missed something. Alpha Trader. So it was less of I've recommended them and more that I've used them. Um, I switched off of them shortly after starting. I think I only did one account with them. So I don't really have too much experience. I don't even think I ever got a payout with them. So I can't really vouch for them in any type of way. But I did like their platform. I have a few friends that use it, say that they're good. But in terms of myself, I can't really give too much, personal insight. The platform that I would recommend is Funding Pips. That's the one I'm using right now. And obviously the general ones like FTMO and basically more well-known prop firms would be your better. I mean, it also depends on where you're located. There are certain places that don't allow certain prop firms that don't allow certain customers for a certain customer base. So yeah. Okay, so let's go over what we have for this week. We have GBP AUD, basically ready to buy, I would say. Um, GBP AUD, let me see something. So the spread is 16. That's quite high. Then your stop loss would have to be massive. Yeah, so yeah, that would be a very, very large stop loss for this trade. If we were going to enter it, I don't like taking trades with stop losses bigger than like 30 pips. I can't remember the last time I took one with one over 40. But this one would have to be at the very minimum like 65 pips, and that's cutting it. 80 to 90 would be more ideal for this type of move. Anyways, that one is for you guys more so than for me. But I guess it differs with different pairs. Price is pushing up, is going to push up to here, most likely somewhere within this area before having any kind of a reaction to the downside. Euro USD, just waiting on that daily pullback to come to an end. Looks like we're going to be creating an inverted head and shoulders here. But what we're going to be waiting for is most likely a pullback into we have somewhat of an area of interest in this area right here. So we have 1, 2, can include this one, 3, 4 structure points. Daily pullback to sell. Daily pullback to sell. Here, same thing, inverted head and shoulders. But for this one, it would be more so of a break and retest underneath the lower time frame EMA to sell. I guess you could say that for any of these, really. It would be a break and retest underneath the lower time frame or a daily pullback. So it's one or the other. USD CAD might actually get the daily pullback into the area of interest, which would be nice to see. AUD CHF break and retest underneath the 4-hour EMA. So this one would go to the top. EuroCAD. Why did that not work? Okay, EuroCAD. Same thing. We have 2 time frames in sync that are bearish, daily and weekly. So yeah, just a break and retest underneath. And if the daily time frame goes bullish, at that point, we'll switch our bias to buys. But for this one, it would also be a break and retest underneath the 4-hour EMA. Let's see. What a ridiculous candle here. Anyways, for these ones, there's not much we can do. I'm just going to be waiting on price to reject our area of interest, maybe a daily rejection candle, which wouldn't really change much. If we get a doji here, there's nothing stopping it from having another bullish candle the following day. It's more so we need to let the EMAs, such as the daily EMA, catch up and actually reject this 4-hour EMA one more time, it seems. Break and retest, daily pullback, or break and retest, and daily pullback. All right, that is basically it for today, ladies and gentlemen. A bit of a all over the place breakdown today. There's been a lot of movement happening while we were doing our call. Usually things are a little bit less active. Maybe that's in preparation for the news events, but we'll see what happens with all of that. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.